In the headlines, negotiations stalled as federal government rejects terrorist requests for commander's release. Airline operators condemn attack on MAX Air staff, warn unruly passengers. Inflation rises to 15.92% as global energy prices soar on heels of Russian invasion. And on the foreign scene, explosions rock Ukraine capital Kiev as Russian invasion continues. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. And now the news in full. There are indications that negotiations between the federal government and terrorists who attacked the Kaduna-Abuja train on March 28 have stalled following the refusal of the government to accede to their demands. The terrorists are keeping about 100 passengers who were abducted from the train, which derailed at Katari, Kaduna, after it was bombed. It was gathered that the demand by the attackers for the release of 16 of the commanders and sponsors in custody in exchange for the abducted victims was not acceptable to the government. Security sources said the authorities were still negotiating with the terrorists while exploring other options to rescue the abductees who were seen in a viral video sitting under a tree at an unknown location believed to be the bandits' camp. Similarly, relatives of abductees of the Kaduna-Abuja train attack say the federal government has entered into dialogue with terrorists to secure the release of the victims. The relatives of the victims said this at a press briefing in Kaduna. The report.
It is over 2 weeks since terrorists bombed the Abuja-Kaduna rail line, killing 8 people and abducting scores. This left family members of the kidnapped passengers devastated, as no word came from the government concerning their abducted relatives. After a series of protests at different locations with no concurrent response from the appropriate quarters, they issued a 72-hour ultimatum to the federal government on Monday to ensure the release of their loved ones. In the early hours of Friday, relief came the way of the relatives of the victims after they told the media that the federal government has entered into dialogue with the terrorists to secure the release of their loved ones.
We are grateful to God that before the expiration of the 72 hours, we heard from the federal government after the Federal Executive Council meeting on Wednesday through the Minister of Information that the government is already in dialogue. They are already on top of the situation with what has happened, that the government is already discussing with the abductors of our relatives. So we are happy about that. We have noted it, we acknowledge it, and we appreciate their effort in this regard. What we want to add is that the government should speed up this process of discussion with them so that they can come out, released very soon.
On the likely resumption of the train service by the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Dr. Jimoh wants the NRC to halt the decision until the victims are released.
We believe the priority now should be how to get the people in captivity released. That should be the first and most important priority now, and this is what they should work on. The NRC should not be talking about reopening their services now when our people are still in captivity. Because what is the assurance that if they start services now, that people that will board the trains are safe? What measures have they put in place to guarantee the security of people that will patronize their services? It has been very difficult for us. Difficult for us, difficult for our wives, difficult for our, those that are, the husbands are in captivity, the wives have not been themselves, the children, the relatives, everybody has not been, nobody has been at ease. It's a national thing. The whole country is in pain.
The relatives of the victims want the government to put measures in place to avoid a recurrence of the ugly incident.
The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps has reaffirmed its commitment to ridding Rivers State of illegal oil bunkering and ensure safety of critical national assets for economic saboteurs. This followed the arrest of 8 suspected oil thieves, along with 8 trucks used in carrying out illegal activities in the state. The report.
In a chat with newsmen, Commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps in Rivers State, Abu Tambuwal, said the command has taken delivery of a gunboat donated by the state government to help boost operations against illegal oil bunkering. Tambuwal, who gave details of some achievements of the NSCDC within the week, said the command intercepted and impounded 8 trucks conveying suspected illegally refined diesel along Mbayama, the border town between Bayelsa and Delta State. The trucks were intercepted while the 8 suspects were making their way out of Rivers State.
We are here at this very exhibit yard to launch the gunboat donated by the state government in its struggle to boost their operations on the waterways. I wish to call on all officers and men that these gunboats are delivered to make judicious use of the gunboats and also to uphold the gunboats to be an added value to their operations.
Tambuwal also hinted that the NSCDC Commandant General Ahmed Abubakar Audi allotted a new ambulance to the command, which will be positioned at the Port Harcourt International Airport for use during emergencies.
These ambulances will add more value to our efforts to curtail the problems and other emergencies that might emanate from various angles in the state. However, this one, with particular reference to strategic states and also strategic international airports we have in the country, were deployed. And this one, River State opportune to get one for deployment to International Airport Port Harcourt.
The commandant reiterated commitment of NSCDC in the fight against oil theft, oil bunkering, and other illegal dealings in petroleum products in the state. He said with a new sheriff in town, it will no longer be business as usual, as the eye of the command is across the 23 local government areas of the state to check criminal activities.
Airline Operators of Nigeria has condemned the recent attack on staff of Max Air at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. The AON, representing indigenous airlines in Nigeria, said the attack further heightens concern over the increasingly deplorable state of security and the rising threat to the lives of airline staff and their property at Nigerian airports. President of the AON, Abdul Munaf Yunus Asarina, stated this in a statement on the heels of the attack and destruction of the counter of Max Air in Abuja on Wednesday. Some passengers of the airline at the Abuja airport had gone berserk over the delay of their flight, venting the anger on the airline staff while facilities of the airlines were destroyed. The situation also reared its ugly head on Thursday at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, as Lagos-Kano passengers also took on the airline staff for delaying the flight. The Kano State Police Command says it has arrested a suspected drug peddler, Agbo Victor, with 250 parcels of dried leaves suspected to be Indian hemp. The suspected substance, said to be valued over 1,750,000 naira, was packed inside the boot of the car he was driving. Victor, 33, was at the Kaduna-Kano border arrested while transporting the substance from Edo State en route to Kano with the intent of delivering it to one Alhaji. A statement from the command's public relations officer Haruna Kiawa for the commissioner said on investigation, the suspect confessed to the crime, while the Kano State Commissioner of Police directed that the case be transferred to the narcotics section of the command's criminal investigative department for further investigation. The Kwara state government has organized a one-day capacity-building workshop to educate politicians on the need to adhere to the provisions of the new electoral law in order to avoid legal issues that could rise after the election. Speaking at the event, lauded the state governor for the initiative, which they believe will usher in credible and crisis-free elections in the state. The report.
The one-day capacity building is at the instance of the Kwara state government to further enlighten politicians on the provisions of the new electoral law. This initiative, according to some speakers, will guide the activities of political players in the coming general elections.
We are going to leave here more knowledgeable and enlightened about whether controversy, whether contradiction, whether any other thing in the Constitution the Electoral Act, and so on and so forth, and what we are expected to do. And now we'll be able to train our people so that they will not run foul of electoral law.
The Electoral Law being passed and signed is an indication that the governor wants us to know deep inside the Electoral Act. The governor wants every political office holder, every critical stakeholders in the state to know inside of what is really happening.
The guest speaker, who is a constitutional lawyer, called for strict adherence to the electoral law to enable them avoid litigation before, during, and after the election.
If we are able to obey the rules and regulations related to the conduct of elections in our country, we shall always reap the reward for having done something well. And when we get to the top of the mountain, it is from only one view. The electorate can see what has been done transparently by the electoral umpire.
The state governor, represented by his deputy, says the new electoral law has redefined how elections will be conducted in the country, as it will instill discipline and internal democracy.
This gathering is very important for our party. As you may have noticed, the new electoral law has redefined how election is conducted in Nigeria. For political parties, the new Electoral Act calls for discipline and respect for internal democracy and the rule of law. It shuts the door against impunity of all kinds. This is the way to go if we want our democracy to grow.
Ignorance, according to him, is not an excuse, and urged politicians to study the act while also appealing to them to conduct themselves peacefully in the coming primaries.
You're watching News Update. Coming up after the break. How 22-year-old traditional barber makes a living. Do stay with us.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. You heard that there are indications that negotiations between the federal government and terrorists who attacked the Kaduna-Abuja train on March 28 have stalled following the refusal of the government to accede to their demands. We also told you that the airline operators of Nigeria has condemned the recent attack on staff of Max Air at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. To more stories, a woman across the world, especially in Africa, empathically rejecting inequality which can no longer be tolerated. It was in the view of this that Nigerian Women Trust Fund, in collaboration with civil organizations, called for litigation for 35% affirmative action inclusion of women in elective positions in the country. Madia Umar reports that women across the country feels the action upheld by the court on 6 April 2022 is worth celebrating. The report.
The press conference brings to the world the significance of the effort that has been made by Nigerian women through the legacy judgment of 35% affirmative action for women in Nigeria from the Federal High Court in Abuja, with Falana and Falana chambers providing probing support for litigation. The event was attended by the Minister of Women Affairs, representatives of the different civil society organizations, and other dignitaries.
If there are three takeaways from this decision, is the fact that the court has affirmed the legality of affirmative action in Nigeria and has basically said that the right to equality is entrenched in the Constitution and must be respected. So moving forward, I'm also happy to hear the minister commit and mention that the president is also with Nigerian women in upholding and implementing this decision. We have some appointments coming, and I think it's important we begin to play by the rules as the court has decided. Very soon there will be appointments of resident electoral commissioners before the next elections, because we have some states, over 20 states, there will be appointment of new resident electoral commissioners. It's important that we see the president work tough and stand by this decision by ensuring 35% affirmative actions in the appointment as we work to ensure the full composition of INEC.
The struggle in the National Assembly is not yet over. We are still pushing, and I'm confident that we will get there. The last struggle before the call of the occupying us, when they got in, they gave them 7 working days, and it has lagged. We are hoping after this holiday, when they meet, we believe that some of the bills will pass through. We are also intensifying our advocacy, and it will not go in vain. I'm simply.
The women say they will not rest on their oars as the judgment bets the need to intensify advocacy for inclusiveness in all levels of government, especially as the 2023 general election approaches.
Equality, development, and peace.
Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
A 22-year-old man, Ahmed Yahaya, who is a local barber in Firo community of Ganjua local government, is calling on the youths in the area to venture into entrepreneurship instead of relying on politicians for formal jobs. The call, he says, became imperative as formal or white-collar jobs continue to become difficult to secure for the common man in the country. Trust TV's Adamu Imam looks at how Ahmed has transformed while in the business. The report.
Ahmed Yahaya inherited the local way of barbing from his father, and he is proud of it. Yahaya, who is a secondary school leaver, says he developed his skills from barbing by joining his father after closing from school to learn the art of the trade using traditional tools.
With this business, I used to get at least 1,500, and this is enough for me to take all my responsibilities. So I'm calling for the youth to stop following politicians. They should stop wasting their time.
Beyond saving for his academic pursuit, Yahaya says he is now prepared to transition from using traditional tools of the trade into more recent and modern ways of barbing.
I do it with myself, and I'm from that business, from that small business. I get this, and I proceed with this container, and now I'm preparing to make it good and clear, to make it a barber shop.
Two of Yahaya customers, Malam Bako and Adamu Maywalda, says they enjoy and still prefer the traditional barbing salon and its tools as against what is obtainable today. We enjoy this local barbing because it removes all the dirty in our heads. So also they usually wash the head thoroughly with local chemicals, no rashes. That is why we prefer this to that of modern ways of using clippers nowadays. When they barb us, we feel fresh air in our heads, and it kills our dandruff. That is more reason why we patronize him. And above all, he has a human relations. We don't have any problem with Ahmed in this community. Meanwhile, Yahaya has assured that he is willing to train youths in the area who are interested in taking to barbing, a trade, he says, is capable of sustaining anyone who is committed to it. From Firo Ganjua, Bauchi State, Adam Imam, Trust TV News.
Students under the ages of the National Association of University Students Osun Campus Monitoring Committee have urged the federal government and striking lecturers to return to the negotiating table and resolve the ongoing crisis. In a press statement released by the association on Friday and made available to newsmen, the student body bemoaned the continued closure of schools following the strike action embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. It said the strike, which was already over 60 days, was beginning to take a negative turn on students, particularly now that they seemed not to know when the challenge is coming to an end. In business, Nigeria's consumer price index rose to 15.92% in March. Latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics shows the new rate is the highest the country has recorded since November 2021, when inflation rate dropped to 15.99%. The rise in the inflation rate in March shows that Nigeria is not left out in the global inflation surge currently being witnessed. The rise in global inflation rates has been associated with the rise in energy prices caused by the war between Russia and Ukraine. Chairman Dabeng in this report looks at the impact of inflation on ordinary Nigerians, especially on the heels of the Ramadan and Easter celebrations.
Nigeria's inflation rate increased to 15.92% in March 2022. The increase is attributed to a surge in global energy prices, which has lingered all through February and March. This has been compounded by the increase in price of diesel as a result of scarcity emanating from ongoing crisis between Russia and Ukraine. With Easter upon us, Nigerians are speaking about how this development will affect their celebration.
In this present economic situation, I did not see any reason why we stop celebrating Easter the way I used to celebrate. Because I'm not celebrating Easter because of buying of clothes, eating of meats, and doing all sorts of things. But I'm celebrating Easter because Jesus Christ died and he resurrected on the third day.
Now things are difficult. Today is Thursday. Now no money. One is complaining. As you can see, I didn't even make my hair because I'm not thinking on that. I'm thinking about money that I will get to solve one or two problems around me. So thinking of money to go to the market, spending, buying things, other things, because things are high. So now you just do it on a low key. Then think of your sober reflection.
Conservatively, I have always retained the religious aspect of it more than the social aspect of Christmas. So to me, it doesn't make any difference whether I have enough money or so much money to throw around or not.
In February, food inflation jumped to 17.2%, up from 17.11% the prior month. Prices of bread and cereals, non-food items, potatoes, yams, and other tubers, as well as oils and fats, have contributed to the rise in the food index. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
On the foreign scene, fresh explosions on Saturday hit Ukraine's capital Kyiv and the western city of Lviv, according to Ukrainian officials. It is not known what sites were attacked or whether there have been casualties, but Russia's defense ministry says the missile strikes targeted a military plant in the capital Kyiv. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says 2,500 to 3,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed in the war so far, and as many as 10,000 have been injured. The UN says 4,633 civilian casualties have now been officially recorded in Ukraine since the start of the war, but added that the number is likely to be far higher. Still away from Nigeria, at least 167 people died in landslides and floods after tropical storm Megi devastated the Philippines last Sunday. A further 110 people are missing and 1.9 million have been adversely affected, the National Disaster Agency says. Villages around Beibei City in the central Leyte province were badly hit with landslides, avalanches, and overflowing rivers. In one village, Pilar, about 80,000 of the houses were washed out to sea. The agency also reported deaths in the southern Davao region, Mindanao, and in the central Negros Oriental province. And in sports, National Para Games ends in Abuja as Bayelsa State wins first edition of Para Sports in Abuja. Adeni Ajishafe has more.
Abuja 2022 National Para Games came to an end with 21 states participating in 15 para sports events. The competition tagged Ability in Disability, organized by Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development to discover more talent in para sport and also recognize their efforts in putting Nigeria at forefront in para sport events. Closing ceremony witnessed all participating states march past, while Bayelsa State wins the first edition with 93 medals, followed by Oyo with 60 medals and Kano coming third with 42 medals. All received their winning trophies. Games coordinator Peter Nelson says the event has given para-athletes platform to show their ability as competition has opened doors for talent discovery.
I want to put it before you that you've been hearing about powerlifting, para-table tennis and para-athletics. Now, to tell you that we have a wider range to win medals in many other sports, that is why we've tried to introduce these other sports in taekwondo, swimming, tennis, para-tennis, badminton, and so on. You realize that if we participate in most of these sports that we are, that is going on at the international level, I want to guarantee you that the medals we have been winning, that people think that we have been doing something, it's a child's play as compared to what we are preparing to see in the near future. This thing was just sole sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, and it's a maiden edition. Of course, you all know the present situation in the country. We wouldn't say that they have not done their best. The government have tried, but I think by the first, second, and third edition, we should have been able to create an enabling environment for sponsorship drive, so that many other organizations, companies can come in to assist the government in making sure that we continue to host this sense of.
Team Oyo captain Osawe Toyosi says against all odds, our team exceed all expectations.
All glory to God and all glory to our coaches and our GM as well, because he gave us the backup even when the hope is lost, because at the dive minutes we don't think we'll be coming down there because there's no preparation for it, but all of a sudden the whole thing just changed, and we thank Sheyi Makinde for the golden opportunity given to us.
Total of 546 medals were won at the event, with 180 gold, 174 silver and 192 bronze medals, with Bayelsa winning 31 gold, 30 silver and 32 bronze to emerge first National Para Games winner. That's Sport News. I am Adeni Ajishafe.
With this, we've come to the end of Trust News Update. You can follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thanks for watching.